Most people have been in that moment. You open a bill. Something stops. Not panic exactly, more like a door closing. You know the numbers need attention. The thinking won't come. That moment has a biological address, and it is not where most people assume it is. The standard explanation goes something like this. Financial stress is overwhelming. When the pressure gets high enough, the brain gets flooded. Cortisol spikes, the nervous system shifts into threat mode, and decision-making deteriorates. The prefrontal cortex, which handles planning, impulse control, and rational thought, gets effectively hijacked by the stress response. And so people make worse choices. They avoid opening the mail. They make impulsive purchases precisely when they can least afford them. They miss payment deadlines they were already aware of. They agree to loan terms they haven't actually read. This is the mainstream framing, and it is not wrong. There is solid research showing that chronic stress impairs the prefrontal cortex, the neural region most associated with higher-order cognition. Studies have mapped the molecular pathways through which stress hormones physically weaken the connections in prefrontal networks. The HPA axis, the hormonal cascade that runs from the hypothalamus down through the pituitary gland to the adrenal glands, gets dysregulated. Cortisol levels stay elevated, and under chronic elevation, the prefrontal cortex starts to lose structural thickness. The picture that emerges is coherent and troubling. Financial stress damages the very mental hardware you need to navigate financial stress. The worse it gets, the less equipped the brain becomes. A vicious cycle with a neurological engine. That explanation is compelling. It is also, in a specific and important way, incomplete. Here is the gap nobody talks about. The studies measuring prefrontal cortex impairment under stress, and there are rigorous ones, typically measure cognitive control through laboratory tasks, working memory tests, inhibitory control paradigms, attention-switching exercises. These are valid proxies for certain kinds of thinking, but they are not financial decisions. And that distinction matters more than it might seem. When researchers find that stress impairs performance on a working memory task, they are measuring something real. But the inference that this impairment translates directly into worse financial behavior in real life involves a leap the data doesn't fully support. Laboratory cognitive tasks and real-world financial decisions share some neural machinery. They do not share the same context, the same emotional salience, or the same motivational landscape. There is something deeper here too. The brain under financial stress is not simply a degraded version of the brain under calm conditions. It is a brain that has shifted its priorities. The stress response evolved to solve immediate physical threats. When that system activates, it is not failing. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do, concentrating resources on the most urgent signal in the environment. The engineer's perspective is clarifying here. The system is working correctly. The environment is wrong. The prefrontal cortex doesn't go offline because it broke. It gets deprioritized because a more ancient part of the brain has decided something else is more pressing. The problem is not the hardware. The problem is that a threat detection system shaped by millions of years of physical danger is now running in an environment made of interest rates and overdraft fees. It is exquisitely calibrated for the wrong world.
Ancient landscape, open savanna, threat visible in distance, dissolving into modern urban street with financial signage.
So when we say the brain shuts down under financial stress, we should be more precise. Some things shut down, other things get louder. And the things that get louder are not well suited to reading a loan agreement. Let's be specific about what the research actually shows and where it stops. Work published in 2015 in Nature Neuroscience mapped the molecular mechanisms by which stress weakens prefrontal networks. The key finding was that stress exposure triggers a cascade of molecular events involving catecholamines and specific intercellular signaling pathways that functionally disconnect prefrontal neurons from each other. This is not a metaphor. The connectivity between prefrontal cells measurably degrades under sustained stress. Planning, working memory, behavioral flexibility, all of these suffer. More recent work, published in early 2025 in a major psychiatry journal, extended this picture. Researchers examined how both stress and inflammation target the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex specifically, a region particularly important for the kind of abstract, future-oriented thinking that financial decisions require. The finding reinforced something important. The impairment is not uniform across the brain. It is targeted. The parts of the prefrontal cortex most involved in cognitive control are selectively vulnerable. Separate research on exhaustion disorder, a clinical condition of chronic stress, found that lateral prefrontal cortex thickness was associated with stress levels. Thinner cortex in people who had been chronically stressed. This is structural, not just functional. The tissue itself changes, and research on the HPA axis has shown that when cortisol remains chronically elevated, the downstream effects reach well beyond the prefrontal cortex, affecting memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and even long-term neural architecture. These findings come primarily from laboratory and clinical settings. The population studied, people with exhaustion disorder, participants in controlled stress induction experiments, are not always representative of ordinary financial stress. The cognitive tasks used to measure impairment are not financial decisions, and the relationship between prefrontal thinning and actual financial behavior in the real world has not been directly measured in most of this research. What the evidence supports is this: chronic financial stress impairs the neural systems involved in planning and cognitive control. The mechanism is real, the molecular pathway is documented, but the precise translation of that impairment into specific financial behaviors, the avoidance, the impulsive spending, the paralysis, involves inferences that go somewhat beyond what the data directly proves. That gap is worth holding, because it changes what the explanation actually implies. If the brain under financial stress is not broken, but rather operating under a different set of priorities, then the experience starts to look different. The avoidance isn't stupidity. The paralysis in front of the laptop, the bill you keep meaning to open, the budget spreadsheet you started and closed. These aren't failures of character. They are the outputs of a system that has classified the financial environment as a threat and responded accordingly. The brain is allocating attention toward danger signals and away from abstract future modeling. That is a mismatch problem, not a moral one. There is also something worth noticing about identity. Some people carry a self-concept, formed years ago under genuine hardship, that says, "I am someone who is bad with money." That label can persist long after the original conditions have passed. The neuroscience of stress gives us one half of the picture. The brain really does function differently under financial pressure. But the label can start generating its own stress, which generates its own impairment. The story becomes self-confirming. Understanding that the impairment is real, and also context-dependent, and also not permanent, that reframing has practical weight, not as reassurance, as information. The question isn't whether your brain works differently under financial stress. It does. The question is whether you're asking it to do complex financial reasoning in the worst possible conditions. Here is where the research leaves things in an uncomfortable but honest place. We know the stress mechanism is real. We know the prefrontal cortex is selectively vulnerable. We know the molecular pathways exist. But we do not yet have a clean map from those findings to the exact moment someone agrees to a payday loan they can't afford, or avoids a phone call about debt for 3 weeks running. The neuroscience explains the terrain. It does not fully explain every path taken across it. And there is a tension that stays with me. If financial stress degrades the very cognition needed to escape financial stress, then the conventional advice, make a budget, think rationally, plan ahead, is being delivered to a brain that is, by definition, least able to use it in that moment. What that actually requires of individuals, and of the systems around them, is a question the research raises but does not answer. The research behind this video draws from molecular psychiatry, biological psychiatry, Nature Neuroscience, Curious, Frontiers in Psychiatry, Journal of Safety Research, Autism Research, Official Journal of the International Society for Autism Research. Every claim traces to a published source. Full citations are in the description below. If the way this channel thinks about neuroscience resonates with you, subscribing helps this work reach people who'd appreciate it. New videos on the science of mind, every